Hi everyone, it's great to see you. For all of you that follow me for tips on dealing with your macrophylla hydrangea, those big beautiful mop heads, today is a day that you are going to want to watch because we are taking out all of these dead pieces of the hydrangea. And I think there's a hummingbird up above my head. I love that. So come on over and I'll show you what I'm going to do. This winter in particular here in southern New England was really hard on our macrophylla hydrangea. Now macrophylla hydrangea are a favorite of people. In fact, other than roses, they are the most frequently sold flowering shrub out there. And everybody wants those big, beautiful pink and blue mop head flowers. I do too, I love them. So we persist and we keep growing them. Now you know my bag and the pot method, and that really helps with the New England weather because it pretty much guarantees that your hydrangea is going to bloom. But I also have a lot of hydrangeas that are planted right in the ground because I will not give up hope. And some years that works great, some years it doesn't. So this past winter, we had a pretty mild winter. And then on February 4th, we had a flash freeze where temperatures changed from mid to upper 40s. They dropped down to negative degrees overnight. And then we're back up within 2 days into the 50s. That is not good for hydrangeas. Hydrangeas have a lot in common with myself. So hydrangeas do not like extreme hot. They do not like extreme cold. I'm one of those people. And they don't like change. And I am definitely one of those people. So this winter was not good for the hydrangeas, the macrophylla hydrangeas that were planted in the ground. Now normally what you see with your macrophylla hydrangeas, if you have a fairly mild winter or consistent winter, is you'll have this old wood that was growth from last year, and in the spring you'll get all these little growth points that come back. If you have a type of macrophylla hydrangea that blooms on this old wood, this is where you're going to get your first buds from. Some of us have hydrangeas that bloom on new and old wood. So we'll get blossoms on here, and then we get some new branches that come up from the bottom, this new leafy green piece, and they'll send out more blossoms too. That kind of hydrangea is great for New England because when you have a freeze that kills off a lot of this old wood, I know that this new wood here can still provide some blossoms. So usually it's the end of May. It's about mid-May right now. Depends on how well you are confident with your pruning and knowing if something is really dead in your hydrangea or not. It's safest to wait to the end of May. Then if that branch has not leafed out, you can count it as dead. As I look at these branches, there are a number that have really peeling bark. When you see the peeling bark there, it's a sign of age and it's a sign of a flash freeze. And this is completely dead because of that. Then I look and I see some branches that don't have peeling bark, that have some sprouts of green on them. But as I move up the branch, oh, I see a little bit of green here. I go higher and higher and I get to other buds that I can tell are just dried and shriveled. There is no life in them. So I'm going to start with those. With those that have some green, you're going to look at the top and go all the way down until you get to a bud group that has green on it. And you will just do a nice cut right above that green bud. Take off the dead part, leave what's here. I don't know if those are definitely going to flower, but they are alive, so it is worth leaving them. And then I'm going to look at my other, so here's another good one. So here's another one where I see lots of growth up to this point. So that's where I cut it. Unfortunately, it's really just those two branches that have survived up top here. That is really not good winter-wise. But you know what? Hydrangeas are hardy. Look at all this new growth at the bottom. It will be fine. For these really dead branches, I'm going to go as far as I can down and just trim them out. And although it's sad to do, it's sad because these aren't going to be blooming. You can't have a bunch of dead looking sticks sitting in your garden either. So it's good to do this, give it lots of airspace for those new branches that are coming up. And hopefully next winter will be more mild. And you can, of course, do some protection for your hydrangeas that are in the ground. And if you've seen some of my previous videos, you can see how my newest ones I cover with painter's buckets. However, even those this year were hit by this extreme cold. I think that's about as good as we are going to get here. Now, this particular hydrangea, I don't know the specific variety of, since it was at the house when we moved in. I do believe it blooms on old wood only. So there is a very good chance that this hydrangea will not bloom this year. I want to show you what it looks like for some of the newer hydrangeas that bloom on old and new wood. Here I am over in our new side garden where I planted many new hydrangeas last fall. And actually at a conference that I just went to on hydrangeas, they said that they are finding in this area people who planted directly in the ground in the fall hydrangeas, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, lost about 50% of those hydrangeas. And I am thrilled that I only lost one hydrangea. So I was very lucky. I think partly it's because I planted on the east side of the house here and I'm very protected from wind, and I did cover a number of mine. I also think a lot of luck just played into that. So let's take a look at this hydrangea. This is a new one that I planted last fall. This is a spike macrophylla hydrangea. So excited about this. And this particular hydrangea, being one of the newer variety, blooms on both old and new growth. So I'm looking at the old growth. That is all of these dead stick parts here. They are all gone. It will not bloom on last year's growth this year. However, it has sent up a ton of new growth down the bottom, and it already has buds. Take a look. And here's another one. And there's another one over here. So I am so thrilled. I am doing a happy dance when I look at these hydrangea that, you know, they've made it through. Will it be fewer blossoms this year? Probably, but I'm still going to get to see what they look like. It is just one of the pluses of many of having one of the newer varieties that bloom on old and new wood. So now I'm going to cut out the old growth here just to tidy this up. You really don't want these long dead pieces sticking up out of your nice new growth. And boy, as I cut them, I can really tell that they are dead. They just snap right off. That's another real sign that a hydrangea branch is completely gone. The live branches have a lot of flexibility in them, and you'll be able to tell. You sort of get a sense of that as you work with them over time. And remember, worst thing that happens is you cut one branch that, you know, did have a little life in it. Not the end of the world here. It will still bloom on the other pieces, or it will grow back another shoot from the bottom. Ooh, that one just made a nice cracking noise. Okay. And already this little bush is looking much better. You want to try to take these down as far as you can, but I do find that the new growth does cover the little stubs that are left at the bottom nicely. Okay, Spike is looking very happy now. One other thing to consider, especially if you are purchasing a new hydrangea to put in, is that if you have a hydrangea that is a hybrid of a macrophylla and a serrata is a mountain hydrangea, they have a better chance to do well in the winter. So this one is one of those hybrids, half serrata, half macrophylla, and it does much better in the winter. It's called After Midnight. So this was not covered. It went through that extreme freeze, and you'll see that these old wood, yes, I lost some, but a lot of the old wood did come back. So also keep that in mind, especially if you're out shopping. I'm in the backyard now with some of my bags in a pot. These are the hydrangeas that I brought the bag they were into the shed for the winter, and they look different than the ones that were in the ground. So this is Froggy. Froggy was a new release last year. It blooms a really cool green flower with pink speckles on it. I love it. It was overwintered in the shed, so although it gets really cold in the shed, it's protected from the wind. It does seem to stabilize the temperatures a bit, and what you'll notice is that this of the old wood from last year pretty much has leafed all the way back. So I didn't lose last year's growth for those that were in the shed. Now there are a couple little pieces here that I'm going to trim out, and that happens every year with hydrangeas, but really this is fabulous, especially given the temperature range that we had. So to me, I look at this, and this is how all of the hydrangeas, I did 12 of them in bags in the shed. This is how all of them came back. They came back with last year's growth leafing right out. That's a really, really strong support for me to keep lugging them into the shed. So I know it's a pain, but boy, this bag in a pot method is working so well for me. And I did tulips in the bags, then I could take them out, put the hydrangeas in. Come fall, I can take them out, put mums in or coleus. So it lets me change up what's a focal point, and it's going to give me so many more blossoms for hydrangea. So I can't bring all of them into the shed. I think I have like 52 hydrangea. There just wouldn't be space. But for those that you're like, ooh, they're a little more sensitive, or that's my favorite one, I really, really want it to bloom, it's a great idea. So that gives you an overview of where my hydrangea are at now. So excited. I can see that it has some buds here. So now I just get to enjoy seeing how they come along and flower, and I will keep sharing that with you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.